World leaders and U.S. lawmakers who are paying tribute to the late former President Jimmy Carter. President Biden declaring January 9th, day of Carter's funeral, as a national day of mourning. Moments ago, the Pope released a statement saying that he was saddened to hear about the loss and that he commended the former president for his deep Christian faith. Jimmy Carter died yesterday at the age of 100. ABC's Morgan Norwood with more on the President Carter's legacy and how he's being remembered.
David, the Carter Center is somber yet grateful as visitors pay tribute, bringing flowers to honor the man who dedicated his life to service and humanity. Tributes are pouring in to honor former President Jimmy Carter.
We may never see his like again. We'd all do well to try to be a little more like Jimmy Carter.
In his address to the nation Sunday, President Biden remembering Carter, who was 100 years old, as the longest living president in U.S. history. Biden and Carter sharing a friendship that spanned nearly 50 years.
There's millions of people all around the world, all over the world, feel they lost a friend as well, even though they never met him. And that's because Jimmy Carter lived a life measured not by words, but by his deeds.
President-elect Trump writing that Carter did everything in his power to improve the lives of all Americans. For that, we all owe him a debt of gratitude. Former President Barack Obama stating, Carter taught all of us what it means to live a life of grace, dignity, justice, and service. And from former President George W. Bush, Carter was loyal to his family, his community, and his country. And the Clintons. He worked tirelessly for a better, fairer world. Carter's one term in office was defined by foreign policy. He brokered a historic peace deal between Israel and Egypt, which is still in effect. But an energy crisis in the U.S. and the kidnapping of 52 American hostages in Iran played a role in his political undoing. Carter was just 56 when he left the White House. But in the more than 40 years since then, Carter and his wife Rosalind devoted themselves to humanitarian pursuits, both in the U.S. and around the world, with the former president winning the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002 in recognition of those efforts.
When historians write the paragraph on Jimmy Carter, 100 years from now, what do you want to be at the top of the list?
I'd say maybe peace and human rights. I kept the country at peace for 4 years and promoted peace for other people.
And President Biden has ordered a state funeral in Washington, D.C. for next Thursday at the National Cathedral. Carter will be laid to rest in his native Plains, Georgia. In Atlanta, I'm Morgan Norwood, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
And when Carter is laid to rest in Georgia, he'll be alongside his wife of 77 years, Rosalind. And though he only served one term, Carter will be remembered for his humanitarian effort and his unwavering pursuit of peace at home and abroad. Eyewitness News reporter Phil Taitt has more on his lasting impact.
The longest-lived American president, Jimmy Carter, died Sunday, roughly 22 months after entering hospice care at his home in Georgia. His service etched into the fabric of our country after introducing himself to our nation back in 1976, pledging to chart a way forward with honesty. Now, the hallmark of his presidency was human rights, but what would define his time in office? His ability to bring peace between countries like Israel and Egypt that is still in place to this day, while also tackling issues from climate change, gas lines, and even rising inflation. Now, reactions been pouring in from across the country and even here at home, as Governor Hochul in a statement said President Jimmy Carter embodied decency and integrity throughout his life of public service. Now, former New York Governor David Paterson also remembering the 39th president. Let's take a listen.
I think how most of all, he was able to mix his commitment spiritually to his professionalism as an elected official, and very few people that have ever held office in this country have done that.
And right now you're taking a look at the Empire State Building that shines in red, white, and blue as the nation mourns the passing of the 39th President of the United States. Now, in an expression of public sorrow, President Biden has directed all United States flags be displayed at half-staff on all public buildings, military posts throughout the United States for the next 30 days, and has declared January 9th as a national day of mourning.
And one more note, this morning there was a 1-minute moment of silence on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange to honor President Carter. Wall Street will close trading on January 9th as part of the National Day of Mourning to honor the former president.